welcome to another cruisereport.com travel tech review. Today we're talking about the Panasonic LUMIX DMC-ZS7. Now this is a pocket digital camera that just happens to be the camera that we use here at cruisereport.com for our own personal use. And we chose the Panasonic because it just has so many features. It's a great camera, and we really like it, and we think a lot of you would be interested in it. We use this camera when we travel for business. We take a lot of snapshots. We take a lot of little video shots with this camera, and a lot of the shots that we take with this camera end up in our reviews and our videos. I'm going to just do a quick walk around just to kind of show you what some of the structural features are of the camera, so you get a little bit of a feel for it. First of all, the camera is a little bit heavier, a little bit bulkier than your typical pocket digital camera. It has a little more weight to it, but it has a lot more features. You know, it's going to be a pretty tight fit in a shirt pocket, but it'll fit, you know, in a jacket pocket, and we wear it around our neck. That's why I have this little strap attached to it. It connects to a lanyard. But on the front of the camera, the first thing you notice is obviously the flash, which is a good flash. It's not great. None of these cameras we've found, none of the pocket digitals take great indoor shots with flash, but this one's a pretty good one. It has, of course, the lens, and the lens, when you turn the camera on, it does extend out, as you can see. It doesn't extend out too far from the body, but it does extend out. But of course, when you turn the camera off, the lens retracts, and it does have a door to protect the lens, which is nice. There is a autofocus assist lamp over here on the side, and that's about it. I will talk a little bit more about the lens though. One of the great features of this camera is it has a 25mm wide angle lens, and it has a 12x optical zoom. So that's effectively about a 300mm equivalent zoom on this camera. Okay, now let's take a look at the top of the camera. On the far right, you have your on-off switch. It takes the camera a little more than a second to boot up. It's pretty fast, not too bad. You have a wide-angle telephoto, your little zoom switch, which surrounds the shutter release button. I'm not crazy about the placement of that. I would rather see it on the corner, kind of like the Sony does. But it works okay, and it is a very smooth zoom action. Here you have a function dial, which allows you to select between intelligent auto, there's a program mode, there's an aperture priority, a shutter priority, manual, some custom modes, and scene modes. And so it has a lot of selectable features on this mode dial, and that's another one of the really big benefits of this camera. Next to the mode dial, you have stereo microphones. These microphones actually do a pretty good job of picking up sound. And then you'll notice a little kind of a hump here, and that's the GPS receiver. This camera does have built-in GPS geotagging capability, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the camera in part 2. Looking on the right side of the camera, you'll notice a little door here that opens up, and this gives you access to your ports. There is an HDMI port, and then there is the USB AV port. This port, unfortunately, it's a sort of a proprietary USB connector. It's not your standard typical USB connector, so you do have to have Panasonic's cable to allow you to use that port. But it does work well, and it is one way of getting your photos and videos off onto your computer. Okay, now if we look at the back of the camera, this is where all the activity takes place. This is where you spend your time looking at. You'll notice a 3-inch LCD monitor, very good monitor, 460,000 pixel screen, gives very good resolution, and it's actually very bright. Even when you're out in the sunlight, it does a very good job. There's your record and playback switch. Now this I'm not crazy about. And the reason I'm not crazy about it is because sometimes you'll play back, you'll be looking at pictures, and you'll forget to put the switch back in the record mode, and you might miss a shot. But you know, after you use the camera for a while, you just kind of get used to that. There's an exposure button where you can adjust your exposure settings. This is your movie record and stop record button. So no matter what mode you have selected on the mode dial, you can always shoot video just by hitting the little red button. And then to stop recording, you simply hit the button a second time. You have your directional buttons underneath, left, right, bottom, top. And these also have dual purpose. For example, the one on the right is also a flash setting. If you hit that, it allows you to choose your flash settings here. The bottom one is a macro setting. It's disabled right now because we have this in iAuto. If I set this to the program mode, then the macro button does become active and you can set macro settings there. So these buttons will have various functions depending on what mode you have the camera set to on the mode dial. You'll also notice a display button down here at the bottom, and this cycles through 3 different settings. The first setting will show you a grid. The next setting will show you all of your different menu options. It shows you approximately how many photographs you have remaining on this memory card, your battery life, and various other pieces of information. And of course, if you were to hit the menu and go into the menu, those changes would be reflected over here in the display. And then you can also go to just a plain display that doesn't show anything on the screen. You also have the Panasonic quick menu, and by selecting that, it gives you several different quick choices. You'll notice we're in the program mode now. You can turn the GPS on or off. You can set burst shooting modes, focus modes, auto white balance, ISO. You have a variety of settings. However, this quick menu settings will change depending on what mode you have the camera set to, and that takes a little getting used to. So if I set this to iAuto and hit Q menu, you see I don't have as many options as I had before. I can set my resolution on my images. I can still turn the GPS on or off, but I lose a lot of capabilities. Consequently, if I go to aperture priority, I'm going to have a different set of options. So that takes a little bit of getting used to, but it really is a nice feature. It allows you to quickly set most of the menu settings without getting into the rather lengthy menus that this camera offers.